What's up, you guys? I'm Dan. This is Frugal Not Cheap. Today we'll look at some retirement calculators to help us plan our financial future. As you can tell, my two main interests on this channel are personal finance and then also Tesla. And a big part of financial planning is, of course, planning for retirement. So I've done a couple of videos. I did one in the past about how much do we need to save for retirement, kind of how to go about those calculations and learning about the 4% rule and that kind of thing. But there are a lot of pre-built tools out there that we can use, and so today I thought we'd take a look at those. So I looked at a bunch, and there are many on the web. You know, everything from like the AARP, of course, has their own, and then many different banking sites have their own, and there's just a whole lot out there. But I wanted to focus on ones that were completely free and also don't require you to sign up in any way and get kind of marketed to and all that. And what we'll do today is we'll look at kind of going from the most simple to the most complicated. So, you know, depending on what your needs are, just to get a rough idea, we'll begin with those, and then as we go along, we'll look at some more complex tools. For all of these, I thought it would be best to be able to compare them using the same base case scenario. And so again, I like to kind of ground these examples in reality. So I'm going to pick someone who's just graduating college or trade school at the age of 21, means they're born in 2002 as of this filming, and we'll give them the median individual income in the US. According to the same data that I used in a recent video to figure out kind of where our net worth is, those guys also track where the income percentiles are as well. So right at the 50 percentile, we're at $46,000, which is $3,833 a month. Now, of course, we don't get to keep all of that. We do have to pay the tax man. So after Uncle Sam, we've got $38,700, which is $3,225 a month. Now, let's assume that we live on $30,000 a year. I think that's very doable. It's $2,500 a month, and that's way more than I spent for most of my adult life until recently. Even now, I'm not spending that much more. I'm spending about $3,000 a month is my average for the past 9 months. So with the $3,225 and the $2,500 a month in expenses, that leaves us with $725 that we can save. In percentage terms, this is pretty good but very achievable goal of saving 22% of net and just under 19% of our gross. So I'm starting off with the most simple retirement calculator that I could find that I liked. We've got one from Smartasset. This one does the usual stuff. Usually there's two main components. You've got your portfolio that you're saving up, and any kind of combination of different tax status investment accounts. And then you've also got Social Security. So those are the two main sort of pillars or sources of income for retirement. So in terms of Social Security, this one does ask us when we're going to elect Social Security, because of course if you delay that, then you end up having a larger monthly benefit. If you take it early, you have a smaller one. But this is all developed based on actuarial tables, so the expected values, pretty similar blindly. If you know that your longevity is likely to be very high, then that might change your factors. But anyway, so we've got Social Security. That's one of the main inputs. Then we also have to have our savings, and here it's going to ask us for our monthly savings, and then it asks us about any 401ks or IRAs and what have you. It also has the ability to enter in a pension as well, and of course, very importantly, it asks how much we're going to spend in retirement. So one thing that I like about all of the calculators we're using here is they don't expect that you're going to be spending exactly the same amount in retirement as you do now, necessarily. And then also that they're not confusing your current income for how much you're spending. So you'll see this in other calculators where they base your retirement needs off of your income, but there can be a very wide variation in the ratio between one's income and one's spending. So that's why I don't think it's a very good assumption at all. So in putting our scenario of saving the $725 a month, the assumptions here at Smartasset put us at a portfolio of just under $1 million by the age of 58, at which time the calculator thinks that we're a go for retirement. So I played around with different ages and tried to find that balance point, and it says 57 wouldn't quite work out, 59 a little bit safer, but 58 was kind of the inflection point here. So that's nice and early. That's still 7 years earlier than your traditional retirement. But actually I think it's fairly conservative, because based on the 4% rule, $1 million portfolio would support spending of about $40,000, whereas we inputted just $30,000. So that would take a portfolio of around $750,000. So this is using a more conservative withdrawal rate of under 4%, somewhere between 3 and 4%. Overall though, it's a good calculator and has a lot of options, but what it doesn't do for you is really give you an idea of how this would work against historical runs, and that's something that the next one is capable of doing. So here's another one that is free. There's a button you can click to continue for free. It won't save it, but you'll be able to run the one scenario, and it's from Rowe Price. So it adds two things that Smartasset didn't do. One is it does Monte Carlo runs, so you can see historically how things would have fared if you'd retired, given these settings. And then it also allows you to add in some part-time work. And I also think it's handy that it gives you sort of like your percentage chance of success based on those historical runs as well. So in terms of how conservative or aggressive it is compared to Smartasset, here the output is we have a 92% chance of portfolio survival, retiring at the age of 58. So I think it's pretty similar to what the Smartasset one was saying. We just get more detail here, and there's a lot more flexibility for options as well if you have a more complicated scenario to model. One of the nice additions, and something that I probably should have pointed out at the beginning, is it does allow you to set your investment style from conservative to moderate to aggressive. And I use the most aggressive, as that would be most consistent with a 21-year-old. But of course that also means it's going to be giving us higher returns generally, and so that is helping to bring that success rate up to 92%. So both of these are good calculators of increasing complexity for looking at a retirement in the future, and particularly more of like a traditional retirement. I mean, 58's a little early, but it's not super early. But there are some other calculators out there that are really focused at doing the math of financial independence, retire early, FIRE, the really early retirement. Three of those are cFIREsim, FIRECalc, and FICalc. I looked at FICalc and I really like the interface, and it looks cool and it's easy to use, but it's really only geared to analyzing survivability of a portfolio that's already been built. It doesn't really factor in figuring out, okay, how much do I need to save to get to that portfolio? So you could use it in combination with one of the other ones, but I'm not going to talk more about it because it doesn't do kind of everything that we'd want it to do here for our purposes. cFIREsim though, and they're currently on version 3.0, I think is really quite good. Very clean interface, very easy to understand and use. It does do the Monte Carlo. It even now allows for multiple scenarios, so you can run it many different times. It'll create new little tabs where you can see the different scenarios and how that would work out as you change factors. And just as with the Rowe Price, we can put in additional adjustments, in this case additional income and savings, a pension, and also additional planned spending, like I don't know, you might want to factor in that you might need to replace your car every so many years, and that kind of thing. Not only that, it allows for spousal Social Security, plus it also allows us to heavily customize what our asset allocation will be. We can set an actual percentage for equities versus bonds, and we can even set the amount of fees that are eating away at our gains. So given all that, we can see that in 100% of historical scenarios, it says that we would have succeeded, and this is using an 80% equities and 20% bond portfolio. I wanted to see kind of where it is that we get to, so moving retirement age up earlier and earlier until we get to a point where we flip below 90%. So I wanted to keep us right above 90% actually. And this happened at age 48. So you can see here, this is much more closely aligned with the 4% rule rather than the more conservative withdrawal rates that we were seeing in Smartasset and also at Rowe Price. So here we have a portfolio of about $600,000, which, again, using the 4% rule, you want $750, but this also factors in the fact that we have Social Security coming in later to save the day. So this one's probably my favorite. It's the most comprehensive. It is, again, much less conservative, so that might not fit your tastes, and of course you can modify the assumptions in order to be more conservative as well, and to match the assumptions that you think make sense. Then there's FIRECalc. And this one's very comprehensive. It does a ton of stuff, but frankly, I think the interface is just way too cluttered, dated, and complicated, and it's just a little intimidating to want to get into. There's a lot of explanation, of course, which is great, but yeah, it's just a lot harder, I think it's just too unwieldy, and so personally I would be using cFIREsim instead. What do I actually use though? Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, a lot of your financial institutions might provide some tools. I know Vanguard's got one that's pretty good, I think. Schwab has one that's very basic. I don't really like it. In my case, I use Empower, formerly known as Personal Capital, to do all of my tracking and categorizing, but they also have a really good retirement planner as well. Allows you to set multiple scenarios and all of the customizations, etc., etc. So I really like that, and I've been using that. So there you go, a set of tools to try to model out your retirement that should suit different requirements in terms of complexity. Hope you found that helpful. If you did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.